Can you really find true love in this little device, or is it all just a game of illusion made to steal from our wallets?
Finding love in 2015 is so different than it was even 10, 20 years ago.
Tinder is like Zillow for people.
This service caters to those who are very well off.
It costs $499.
So what will Tinder look like in another 5 years?
It's September of 2012, and two 27-year-olds decided to build an app for the App Store. The idea is simple: solve a problem every college student faces: rejection. The only problem is that very solution would change the way we interact with each other forever, trapping an entire generation behind paywalls, expecting more than reality, and manipulating their brain chemistry, all in hopes of finding true love. But after billions of dollars and investors demanding stronger returns, these apps have been forced to charge you more, offer you less matches, and keep you online for as long as possible. So let me show you how we got to this dystopian reality, how it's affecting your life more than you might realize, and how one corporation controls it all. But as their stock price continues to drop like a rock, they're scrambling to collect the pieces and convince you to date a robot instead. When you start a business, the most important thing to do is to align your incentives with your customers. So if your customer wins, you win. This not only creates trust between the customer and your business, but it also creates a common goal for the two of you to work towards. However, with dating apps, the incentives are completely misaligned. Let's take a look at how this might play out. This is John, and he just downloaded Meet Me, the newest dating app on the market. He fills out his profile, adds the best 5 photos he can find, and starts swiping. In the perfect world, the Meet Me algorithm would serve John the best matches for his profile, thus landing him countless dates and hopefully his one true love within the first month or 2 of dating. But as anyone who's been on the dating apps knows, that's just not the case. Over the next couple of days, John hops on the app every now and then, but eventually gets tired of the disappointment every time he loads the page. But right when John is about to give up on Meet Me and delete it, he gets a match. The girl he matched with doesn't actually end up returning his message, but the dopamine spike he got from seeing the match successfully pulls John back into the app. What he doesn't realize is that all of this has been specifically engineered behind the scenes to keep John on Meet Me for as long as possible. Meet Me might say their mission is to find you the love of your life, and in theory, their complex algorithms and AI analysis should be pretty accurate when it comes to finding matches. After all, these dating algorithms have been around since the 60s and have only gotten better and better at matching people, which we'll get to in a minute. But in reality, Meet Me's job isn't actually to find John the perfect match. Instead, they're trying to pull him deeper and deeper into their monetization pit through boosts, likes, upgrades, or extra swipes. And their main concern is keeping John on the app for as long as possible. Because after all, we're just humans. Our brains are wired to find a mate, and when you combine that with dopamine manipulation, you've got the perfect storm to trap an entire generation. And if this kind of manipulation feels familiar, it's because it's everywhere, not just in dating apps. Algorithms control what we see, what we get mad about, and even how we vote. That's why I started using Ground News. It doesn't try to guess what I want to read, it just shows how every side is reporting the same story all over the world. No political spin or pointless little rabbit holes. Even the Nobel Peace Center called it one of the best ways to avoid echo chambers. Take this new Tinder feature on height preference that was recently announced. It was reported across 27 different news sources. But as you can see, depending on which news source you're reading, you might get a completely different conclusion. The left-leaning sources focused mainly on how the new height preference is promoting superficial dating norms, while the right-leaning coverage downplays the new height feature and instead focuses on Gen Z's move away from hookup culture and back to traditional dating values. As someone who's always trying to find new stories, I love that Ground News gives me a more well-rounded view of the issues today beyond what my typical algorithm will show me. It's designed for people who want to question the narrative, not just consume it. And that's why I've partnered with Ground News to offer you 40% off their Vantage plan, which is the same plan I use at the link ground.news/grant. There aren't any other apps out there that lay out how different sides are covering the exact same stories right next to each other. So scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description below. Thanks again again to Ground News for supporting the channel. Now let's take a step back and look at where this whole online dating thing even began. In 1965, two Harvard grads had an idea after a night out. Jeff Tarr and Von Morrill wanted to see if a computer could find them the perfect date. They went around campus and handed out a 75-point questionnaire. The questionnaire covered topics like hobbies, education, physical appearance, and specific situational events. Participants were told to answer the questions twice, once for themselves and once for their ideal partner. They would then feed all of the responses into an IBM machine, and each participant would receive 5 matches. But all they got was the names and their phone numbers. Everything else was up to them to figure out. Compatibility Research Inc. charged just $3 to submit a questionnaire and find your perfect match, which is about $30 in 2025 terms. So it wasn't necessarily cheap, but Operation Match would go on to inspire the entire world of online dating, with Match.com most notably coming around in 1995. The founder, Gary Kremen, saw business potential in charging men for access to women's email address and pictures, which is a tale as old as time. By adding in algorithmic matching, Match.com would pair individuals based on the basic information that they uploaded to their profile, similar to Operation Match. But now that they weren't running on old IBM machines, they could actually build a real algorithm. This idea proved to be a success, with Match.com being acquired in 1998 for $7 million and then sold again in 1999 for $50 million to Ticketmaster of all places. Why Ticketmaster? Well, at the time, Ticketmaster's goal was to become the one-stop shop for a singles night out. So it made sense to combine the biggest online dating site with the biggest event ticketing platform, which was just the beginning of the monopolization of your dating life. But before we get to that, we should look at how those free apps could be adding hundreds of dollars to your monthly budget, because the business model of dating apps is pretty unique. When Match.com first launched in 1995, they charged a simple subscription fee of $9.95 per month. That would give you access to the platform so you could start mingling with other singles right away. But as dating sites moved from bulky computers to inside of your pocket, the game had to change. Instead of making you pay right away to sign up, the dating apps were free to use. Simply download the app and just start swiping. But once you swipe a few too many times, you're hit with this. And if you want to swipe more, you can just pay a little bit extra. Or if you're really committed to finding love, you can sign up for a subscription plan. For example, Tinder offers 3 tiers plus an invite-only plan starting at $500 per month. Want to know what you get for $500 per month? You get a prioritized profile and a special select badge. Oh, and you get the ability to direct message anyone on the platform without even matching with them, which kind of completely goes against the entire purpose of Tinder and their mutual matching promise that keeps people you're not interested in out of your inbox. But as we know, with most software companies, the almighty dollar is hard to resist. And if they can put something out there that people will pay an absurd amount for, they probably will. Unlike most digital apps that rely on advertising dollars, dating apps only drive a small percentage of their revenue through advertising, which means they need to get pretty creative with how they get you to spend more. And sometimes they get a little bit too creative. In fact, depending on where you live or how old you are, you might be paying more than you think. Not because you're getting more, but because Tinder's algorithm decided that you could afford it. In one study, users over 30 were charged 5 times more than those in their 20s. And in California, Tinder was forced to pay out $17 million in an age discrimination lawsuit, which they tried to argue against by saying they were just making the app features more accessible for younger individuals who don't make as much as those over 30. Either way, there's one thing for certain. These apps don't make money when you find love. In fact, they almost have to rely on you not finding love in order to stay in business. The longer you're single, the more swipes you burn, the more boosts you buy, and the more desperate you get. And the sad truth is, you're not their customer. You're actually the product being optimized for profit. And the algorithm is designed to keep you chasing love just out of reach while slowly taking dollars out of your pocket. But the real question is, who's behind all of this? Let me introduce you to Interactivity Corp, otherwise known as IAC. Founded in 1995, IAC has had their hand in just about every entertainment and media company you know today. From TV networks like USA and Sci-Fi Shopify, to travel companies like MGM Resorts, Hotels.com, Expedia, and TripAdvisor. And what better way to advertise these travel companies than through the publications you own like People Magazine, Health Magazine, Investopedia, Food and Wine, and Southern Living. But the main character we want to talk about today is one of their darling companies, Match.com. As you already know, Ticketmaster purchased Match.com for $50 million in 1999. But it's important to note that Ticketmaster was actually owned by Interactivity Corp. And if there's one thing IAC is really good at, it's monopolizing an entire industry. To their credit, they were forward thinkers. They understood that culture is constantly evolving and the cool dating site of today might be a complete no-go in 6 to 8 months. So instead of waiting around for that to happen, IAC and Match.com began buying up all of their competition. But they didn't just buy it up and roll it into Match.com, because then all of their eggs would be in one basket, and if that basket were to fall, it'd all be over. So they took the smart approach: buy the dating companies, but leave them as separate sites. That way, when users got bored of one and moved to the other, they would think they're getting a whole new experience. But in reality, it's the same thing, just with a different look. Starting in 2009, the Match Group purchased People Media for $80 million, which owned sites like Our Time and Black People Meet, and they would later go on to acquire OkCupid for $50 million in 2011, Plenty of Fish in 2015 for $525 million, and most notably, the $3 billion merger with Tinder in 2017 and the acquisition of Hinge in 2018. In total, IAC owns over 45 dating-related businesses. So no matter how hard you try, all dating roads lead back to IAC and the Match Group. But just because you're the biggest fish in the sea doesn't necessarily mean you're guaranteed success. In 2020, Match Group became an independent, publicly traded company. And by 2021, the company was valued at $48 billion. But as you can see here, things took a turn in 2021. Since its high of $169 a share, the Match Group stock has steadily dropped to just $32 today. And there's no one to blame but themselves. As our lives have increasingly moved online, more and more people are looking for real world connections. And after years of failed dates, ghosted conversations, and endless nights of swiping, dating app users are beginning to give up on apps. Tinder specifically has seen a 9% drop year over year in their monthly users, and Bumble hasn't even been profitable for the last 4 years. This is partially due to the increased competition among dating apps, but as we know, most of them are owned by one group. But the main concern that all the dating apps are trying to figure out is how to get Gen Z on the platform. And their solutions so far are not exactly working out. Instead of fixing the actual problem of helping people build real, meaningful relationships, they're doubling down on features that keep users stuck in the app even longer. Tinder even released an AI flirting coach that you can talk to in the app, all designed to look like they're helping you learn to connect, but in reality, they're just adding more layers between you and another human. And the creepiest of all is that some sites are even considering giving up on human connection altogether. Using tools like XHuman, they're adding AI girlfriends to the site that connect emotionally and keep users engaged. So not only do you have to worry about finding common interests by just looking at a couple of pictures on a profile, but now you need to somehow figure out if you're even talking to a real human being. But where does that leave us? If dating apps aren't built to actually help us find love, what is the alternative? In my opinion, it all comes down to getting out of your comfort zone and trying new things. Explore events in your city, go to a run club, join a cooking class. Just do something to get out in the real world, because the less time you spend on the screen, the less monetizable you are, and the more likely you are to bump into your future husband or wife. These apps were built to protect you from rejection, but maybe getting rejected face to face is worth the trouble if it means you'll eventually find the person you love. If you like this video, you might also like this video about the online gambling platforms that are pulling people in and taking their money faster than the dating apps can keep up.